let's break down the offense and get everybody accustomed to some of these names. And starting with the offensive coordinator and Mike Denbrock, who's been working with Brian Kelly quite a bit. He's most recently been at Cincinnati, but a long stay working on the offensive side of the ball with Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. So what can we possibly expect him to bring to the table?
Well, Mike Denbrock, he's going to be creative as hell. But here's the thing. He's a creative play caller. He's also a great recruiter, and he's considered one of the good guys in college football. Just somebody he's always been considered one of the great human beings in college football. I've heard that from a lot of recruits, a lot of coaches, just a lot of people who just back Mike Denbrock. But, this is a guy who favors a lot of pro type of schemes into his college repertoire. And so he's got a multiplicity of offensive attacks that he likes to throw at defenses. And, he had a lot of success with Brian Kelly, and their relationship goes way back to the 80s, where I'm sure they were still allowed to smoke cigarettes on airplanes and chug beers in the locker room. But, they go way back to Grand Valley State, their time as grad assistants. But, they go clear into their time at Notre Dame. But then Mike Denbrock, he kind of went solo, went to Cincy. And, I mean, would you look at this, Mark? Would you look at the points per game progression here at Cincy?
Okay.
And the rankings.
Very nice.
Look at that.
111th in the country in total offense, and then boom, zipped up all the way into the top 10 by last season.
Exactly. And Mark, not only that, they finished ninth in the country in yards per play when he begun his reign as an offensive coordinator at Cincinnati. They were 99th. So nine times Bueller, 9 times. So 9 is kind of a recurring theme here with Denbrock, but from 99th to 9th in the country in yards per play as well. It's just crazy. I mean, the Bearcats, he's not afraid either to bench a veteran quarterback either, because that's what he did with Hayden Moore when he put in a Desmond Ridder, way back when he was a freshman. And, obviously Desmond Ridder, he rode Desmond Ridder clear through this progression all the way to a college football playoff appearance. And, even the game against Alabama, people want to say Mike Denbrock, I'm not sure about his play calling because of the what happened against Alabama. I say you have to look at that game more and actually go back and watch the film there. That game is just players just not making plays. Simply put, okay, look at that opening drive. Huge missed opportunity. Absolutely, batted pass at the line of scrimmage, and then an absolute big drop in the end zone. And, calamities unfolded throughout the game for Cincinnati like that. And it was not on Mike Denbrock that they only scored 6 points, 2 field goals or whatever it was. And, when you look at Mike Denbrock's history, you see a progression and especially with Cincinnati, Luke Fickell, the theme with these coaching hires, for Brian Kelly, it's about, I know what you could do with Saban, with 5 stars, with roster power, resources, recruiting greatness, all that. But what can you do with 2 stars, walk-ons? What can you do with less? And, if they can maximize that previous talent at their prior stops, they should be fascinating at the controls of LSU's 2022 offense. And Mike Denbrock is no exception. He's more creative than the final 20 minutes of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Some of his red zone plays and usage of pre-snap formations and explosive post-snap option plays, there's always an action to the opposition's reaction, Mark. Cincy were always a step ahead because they could cover every base. They could run it down your throat. Their offensive line were versatile enough to pull with the authority to match the complexity of Denbrock's favored, pro blocking schemes. They could spread you out as well, use, double tight ends, run a 2-back system, zone reads, option plays, loads of mesh concepts, tight end fade routes even. Denbrock loves it all, and he calls it all. That's the thing. He very multiple in what he calls. I would be shocked if Denbrock showed up to LSU and just became one-dimensional, stopped being a more balanced attack. I would be shocked. But, he is a safe hire. But don't forget, Mark, what was the most called formation of the 2019 LSU Tigers offense?
I'm supposed to know the most called formation for the LSU offense, and
just guess.
something tells me that when you tell me this, it's going to be fairly obvious, but I'm not coming up with it right now.
Well, the fun bunch, the bunch formations, and trips as well. But with Denbrock, you're going to see like 2 tight ends in the 3 receiver formations. You're going to see it's just a perfect setup for hybrid guys like Jack Besh or Landon Ibieta. And then you got Keyshawn Butte, coming across the screen. I see this offense, with this bunch formation framework, coupled with the mesh route runnings with Keyshawn Butte and Jack Besh, Malik Neighbors, their yards after catch ability. I just see them absolutely roasting teams because usually there's 2 or 3 options on every play for these offenses. And I don't understand why Jake Peetz didn't understand that, maybe narrowing the formation, forcing the defense to actually chase and run instead of just, okay, they're coming in my zone, I'm going to make up the ground and then get them. It was just too easy. He didn't make you have to make defenders defend every blade of grass on the field. He did not do that as offensive coordinator. Mike Denbrock, I believe he's going to come in and at least try and do this. But there are drawbacks for Denbrock. His coaching versus the best leaves a lot to be desired, Mark. I mean, although the context is, of course, limited talent supply at Notre Dame or Cincinnati in comparison to what he should have at LSU. There's only a trio of 30-point games in 9 appearances, coaching versus Power 5 competition. And it's Indiana, Boston College, Virginia Tech, won in just each of the last 3 seasons. He's also been shut out at the hands of Ohio State and limited just the pair of field goals against Alabama, of course. But, it's a very intriguing hire, Mark, Mike Denbrock.